Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today it's going to be a two-part video. So the first part is going to be me talking about why I chose to rank 5 Terrax, and in order to do that I need to go through some account history. And the second part is going to be a rank 5 priority guide, kind of the things I look at when I determine whether or not I think a champion is worth rank 5 and why I have so many super powerful champions sitting at rank 4. As always, there'll be timestamps in the description below so you can jump to whichever one you happen to be interested in. That said, if you're wondering why I rank 5 Terrax, the short answer is defense. But if you're wondering, well, hey, I know you used a cosmic rank up gem, but you have, even just looking at your 5-star cosmics, you have so many cosmics who are just so much better than Terrax. I mean, you have Medusa, I could have awakened and ranked 5, Hyperion, who's already awakened, I could have ranked 5, even Venom. People would make arguments for Cull Obsidian. Really, that's about it. You might see a Phoenix argument out there, or maybe even a Carnage people would claim are better than Terrax, and I understand where you're coming from. But for me to explain why I rank 5 Terrax, which there is a reason, primarily defense, and I think his playstyle is fun, I kind of need to walk through my roster and kind of just explain where my rank ups were in order. So my first ever rank 5 was Captain Marvel movie. And the logic here was she was super powerful, an amazing taxi, right? Because I run Suicide Masteries, I was getting that awesome heal. Because I did have a 4-star Nick Fury at the time. So I was using her to cruise through uncollected events, and she was an amazing rank up. I don't regret it for a second. I don't use her as often as I should these days. I use her for a path here or there because she's got some good utility, but she was an early rank up for a taxi. What she did was she got me through the uncollected events, she got me through a lot of brutal paths, and she did it very quickly. And even now I use her in Alliance Quest, and she just cruises through map 6 for me days 1 through 5. Captain Marvel movie. So that was my first rank 5. My second one was Ghost. I ranked 5 Ghost as soon as I got her. I brought her up, sigged her up, slowly tried to figure out what the max optimal sig level was, and I honestly ended up deciding 200. And the reason for that was I used Ghost in Alliance War. Ghost is my main Alliance War go-to. She saved me so many potions. She allows me to take down mini bosses and boss takedowns. I've got some great video content of just me crushing it with Ghost. And yeah, I have bad fights here and there, but just the way she bypasses fight mechanics really makes her an optimal Alliance War champion. Because of that, she was my second rank 5. No regrets. Also, I used Ghost to do Labyrinth of Legends. I've done 4 paths with her. The first one was relatively cheap. The other 3 I regret. I could have done with Aegon, but hey, I wanted to see if I could make that push with just Ghost. And that was before Abyss of Legends came out. Now that Abyss of Legends came out and I know that Aegon feels almost vital, that's when I decided to back burner the other 3 paths. But Ghost would have been my all 7 paths of Labyrinth of Legends option as well. Next up was my third rank 5, which was Thing. I ranked up Thing mostly for defense because I've always been an Alliance War focused mindset, but also his prestige, because at this point I was starting to think about prestige and recognizing that if I wanted to have a good prestige in the game, I needed to start making that commitment then. At that point, when I was starting to get rank 5 materials, I got that rank 5 gem from pushing Cavalier. I got a science one, dumped it into Thing, brought him up to rank 5. I've always figured, he's a solid attacker when I do need him. I've used him on occasion, but primarily he just sits on defense and he sits there with a good prestige. Eventually I'll have him sig 200, and that'll be a really big boost for my account overall. After that, I brought Sim Supreme, actually, not a 5-star, but a 6-star. I brought Sim Supreme up to rank 2. I did this mostly because I'd already pushed Act 6.1 and I was starting to eyeball Act 6.2, and Sim Supreme was going to be my answer for the champion boss. I knew that if I brought Sim Supreme up, I would be very grateful for that opportunity. Also, I could use him as Alliance War attacker then at that point, kind of like a one-shot if I ever needed to deal with a specific fight. And overall, I don't regret the Sim Supreme rank up because I know he's got that amazing nullify value. After that, I brought up Namor, and I'm not going to lie, Namor was purely prestige. Yeah, there's other value. I get good sustain and I get good attack value out of him on war when I need him for a counter matchup, but when I brought up Namor at this point, I had strictly been thinking prestige, because for me, I wasn't pushing 6.2 yet, I wasn't pushing 6.3, and the rest of my roster let me handle all the content in the game that I needed to, and or I could use boosts and rank 4 champions to push. So I brought Namor up for prestige. So that was my 5th major rank up. After that, I did Clairvoyant. I had a gem gem. I love the champion. I don't think she needed to be rank 5 for what I use her for, and even now, pushing in like 6.4, I don't ever feel like I needed her at rank 5, but hey, with a Mystic rank 4 to rank 5 gem, I feel like it was justified considering how much I like the champion, and I forced her on the champion for the last 10%. Just to kind of like claim that trophy with her. And overall, I don't regret it. She's a great champion, and I'm sure she'll see great value in the future, especially considering she's sustainable with my Suicide Masteries, where Sim Supreme is not. After that, I brought up Quake. I tried to push through Variant 2, hoping I could get another Science 4 to 5 gem, and I did not, so I brought Quake up naturally, and that is because, like, rank 4, she can do everything in the game you need, but rank 5, it just gives you so much extra security when you're bringing Quake to war. I was bringing Quake to war, and there were like some fights that were just longer than I'd like, and or making a slip up was taking health that I didn't want to lose, and bringing her up to rank 5 gave me faster fights, more health pool. And honestly, if you're not using Quake for war, you don't necessarily ever need to rank 5 her, because the rank 4 just means longer fights. It's not very often where you're using her in a situation where you can't just afford to take a longer fight, but even then, you would just justify the rank 5 considering how often you'll end up using Quake if you become a Quake god, and honestly, it's worth every second that you save because her fights are already long as is. After that, I brought up Nick Fury. I didn't bring up Nick Fury until I started pushing map 6 in this alliance because I didn't really use him that often, and when I did use him, the rank 4 was fine enough. He was, you know, if I needed to take down a specific fight or a node or something like that, I brought Nick Fury. He used one fight and that was it. It wasn't until Alliance Quest where I started seeing him frequently, you know, 5 days a week, this champion could save me resources. That's when I committed to rank 5 because, you know, you really want to get the most out of every champion you bring. After Nick Fury, I brought up Warlock. And Warlock, he's this utility powerhouse for Act 6 primarily, and he occasionally sees use on war because I need that utility there as well. So you're starting to see like this huge trend, and then finally my most two recent rank ups were Elsa Bloodstone to rank 2 as a 6-star. That was primarily for defense, but also for fun. Like, at this point in the game, there are rank ups I need to consider, like I know that I need to look for, and we'll talk about that in the second half, but I'm just also looking to have fun. Like, I feel like if you don't rank up champions for fun here or there to get value out of them, you know, you're gonna find yourself in a rut where your roster just looks exactly like everybody else's. So I brought up Elsa Bloodstone. I love her alternate playstyle. I think that her with the Nick Fury and Quake synergy is so cool, and she's now my auto queen. Like, if I put Elsa Bloodstone with Nick Fury, Quake, and like a Deadpool X-Force, I can auto through so many quests so very quickly because every time she evades, she usually like counters with a combo and the fights end very quick comparatively to other teams. I'll show that at some point maybe, but overall I'm just really glad, and it secures a defender and it takes off the pressure from the rest of my roster for defense. And then most recently and finally was Terrax for defense. Partially because, I brought him up to rank 4, and he could have been a fine defender at rank 4. Played around with him, and I actually really like the playstyle. Yeah, it's slow. Yeah, I won't do it super often or use him very often, but when I do use him, it's going to be satisfying to, like, throw a special 3, get a parry, and a big crit heavy, and yeah, the rest of the damage numbers are garbage, but hey, that's good enough. Sometimes you just feel like memeing around, and hopefully, I see good value out of him as a defender. But the biggest thing out of Terrax as a defender is that no one else, or very few people else in the game, have him, let alone have him at rank 5 and Awakened, because I committed those resources. So what I've done is I've secured that slot in my alliance. No one else is going to bring up a Terrax when they know I already have him Awakened and maxed out, and he's not the world's greatest defender. He's not like going to break the game in defense, but he's also a solid defender who's going to get good value war out of war out of war. And that's really what I did it for. And you might say, well, okay, fine. I understand you did it for defense, Jay, but let's compare Terrax with the rest of your Cosmic, right? That's the real grit of it. And so the first question is, you have Medusa, you have Hyperion. Why didn't you rank 5 those? Well, I didn't rank 5 Hyperion because, as you know, or if you've watched this channel, I have a huge bias against Hyperion. I'm a Suicide Mastery champion player. Hyperion, he just doesn't feel suicide compatible for me. He's using Special 1 and Special 2 so often, and if you're not using those, I feel like you're not getting the most out of him. just so often, and I don't like the RNG on the Furies. It just all feels very, very, very clunky to me. I really hate it, and if you aren't using Special 1 and Special 2, so you don't have to like suffer from recoil when you run Suicides, I feel like the damage output is really, really clipped, and if you are spamming Special 1 and Special 2, well, he's no longer recoil friendly. So Hyperion took an immediate axe from me, which really only leaves Medusa. And Medusa is amazing. She's so, so, so good. But I've been playing around and I've just really decided like there's not as many robots in the static content these days. I don't feel like it comes up as often as it should. And there are situations where I really, really want that guaranteed armor break, and there's going to be a path in Act 6 where I want the armor break and the bleed value that Medusa has, because it's like a do you bleed node, where you like there's an Iceman and an Emma Frost, and Medusa's going to be great there. But in my head, I thought, well, if I really, really want to rank 5 her, I can use, tier 5 basics and tier 2 alpha to do it, and I won't feel bad. Because remember, I used a cosmic gem on Terrax, and I like to use those gems on champions that I feel really, I wouldn't normally rank 5, right? Because it doesn't feel as bad to use a gem than it does to use resources. That's the logic behind it, right? If I bring Medusa up with tier 5 basic and tier 2 alpha, it's going to feel good at the end of the day. But if I bring Terrax up with tier 5 basic and tier 2 alpha, it's brutal. Because, the question here, it turns away from, hey, what about the rest of your Cosmic Champions? And it comes down to, well, what about the rest of your 5 stars? And Terrax, I can't even put him in that kind of a competition. But only cutting it down to these, it's just him or Medusa. And when I think about my value usage for Medusa, at the moment, I personally think if I really needed a rank 5 equivalent of Medusa, I would just use boosts. So yeah, that's my logic on the rank 5 Terrax, if you wanted my own personal story. But if you didn't care about that and you only cared about the guide portion, let me jump into that. This will be fairly quick. So as far as guide goes for choosing a rank 5 and how I deem a rank 5 worthy, my first thing is taxi. Like, you have 0 rank 5s. Jay, I'm choosing my first rank 5. Who should I choose? My answer to you is choose a taxi. You want someone with high initial damage, short fights, good sustain, overall amazing utility. You want someone you can use on almost every fight. Like, if there's no crazy interaction node you have to deal with, or no really frustrating counter champions you have to deal with, like Havoc where you need an armor up or something like that, you want a champion that you can just comfortably slot on your team and know you're going to get value out of 70 to 90% of the time. And that's what you want. Honestly, taxis first up foremost. Once you've got that taxi slot secured, you can start thinking about, other rank 5 potentials. Maybe your second one is also a taxi, but, now you want to start thinking about things like Alliance War. Because honestly, Alliance War is where stats matter the most. This game is not itemless. You don't have to play the game without using items, without using boosts. Like, actually, I encourage you to do it the other way around. Use items, use boosts, grind arena for units, and push your way through with the items in the game that Kabam is giving you. But Alliance War is one of the few situations where it's like you really, really don't want to be using items. You really, really don't want to be using boosts if you don't have to, because it's so expensive to maintain, and your alliance loses out if you make a mistake, if you trip up. So after you secure your taxi, my next thing is secure 1 to 2, at the very least 1 to 2 attackers for war. You want to bring up rank 5 attackers for war to give yourself the best opportunity to secure full attack bonuses and reduce the amount of resources you use in war. After you've done that, I think the next one you want to start looking at is a Labyrinth of Legends or Abyss of Legends options, because you really want to claim at least the completion of Labyrinth of Legends, and you always want to keep Abyss of Legends on the back of your mind from this standpoint. After that, you want to think about Act 6 and who you'll use to maybe counter bosses, counter paths, all those kinds of fun and interactive things, because honestly, the stat difference between a rank 4 and a rank 5 is going to start making a lot more of a difference in Act 6. Like, when we talk about the uncollected monthly event, you can use 4 stars for that, man. You don't need to worry about rank 5 5 stars. It's specifically Act 6 where rank 5 5 stars really start coming into importance and high level play. So yeah, Act 6 is the next thing. After that is Alliance Quest. And why is Alliance Quest so low on the list? And the reason for that is that you can get away in Alliance Quest with just rank 4s. Like, I think the person I always go to like as my example of why you don't need rank 5 champions is KT1. Like, KT1 put this video out of a rank 4 5-star Venom just crushing day 5 of map 7 in a high prestige alliance. And like, if KT1 can use a rank 4 Venom, trust me, you can use a rank 4, Colossus or a rank 4 Ghost Rider. You don't need that Ghost Rider rank 5. It's going to save you some time, and that's why Alliance Quest is on this list of like, hey, you should think about rank 5ing them eventually, but it's something, you do maybe on your 6th or 7th rank 5, not necessarily your 1st or 2nd, Think about the parts of the game that you either need a rank 5 to clear or you need a rank 5 to consistently get good value out of, like War. Where the penalties are way worse, because the truth is in Alliance Quest you can just slap in like a solid sustain champion if you're pushing map 5, and if you're pushing map 6, well, you probably already have a good amount of rank 5s anyways and can start thinking about this Alliance Quest priority. After you've secured your Alliance Quest team, you want to start thinking about Prestige. And honestly, Prestige is something you should have been thinking about the whole way through, but if you haven't thought about it at this point, you honestly really need to consider Prestige. And you want to like mix as much of the above as possible. These are in the notes as well, by the way, like the categories I'm using. But you also want to really focus on Prestige, because eventually you're going to find yourself in a position where you can't be as active in the game as you want because Prestige is gating you. And if that never happens, don't worry about it. But if you're pushing and you're trying to be one of those top end players, one of those high tiered alliances, Prestige is a gate and you need to start thinking about it. After you've secured Prestige, this is when defense hits the market. Yeah, you can look at my roster and you can say, Jay, you have so many great attackers. You've got Havoc, Ghost Rider, Medusa, Colossus, Hyperion, Darkhawk, Spider-Man, Stealth and Stance. So many attackers that would have justified a better rank 5 than Terrax. Well, the thing is that Terrax on defense, even if he just chips away a little bit of damage at the opponents, this is going to secure my alliance more points, more wins, better alliance wars overall. And he's going to do that every single alliance war. Do you see a pattern? It's all about use, frequency of use, and value of use. That's why Terrax went up to rank 9 for me. That's why I think defense is an important thing to think about. Not initially, not for your first 5 or 10 or maybe even 15 rank 5 5-stars. But some point at some time, you can look at your roster and say, yeah, you know what? I have the attackers I need. And yeah, maybe I have some rank 4s that I use in Act 6 that I would prefer to have at rank 5. Maybe that could save me some units or revives here or there. But honestly, this defender is going to help my alliance win wars. And wars is going to help net me materials. And netting materials is a good way to progress in the game. And honestly, in like Act 6, you can just use revives where you couldn't have used that on defense. So that's my rank 5 priority guide. Hopefully my thoughts and my opinions help you out. If you disagree, feel free to comment. I always appreciate constructive criticism. I always appreciate, hearing different opinions in the game because we all have different ones. But overall, I hope you enjoyed. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.